Good morning, everybody. It's almost the beginning of the week. This is not Sunday. This is Monday. It happens. Happened. Here we are. Lovely day. Spring. May in Colorado. It's pretty. Started taking care of my lawn again. Also, if anyone's interested, there's a great podcast dealing with, let's call it, the global predicament we're in, called The Great Simplification. It's really good. He has guest interviews, conversations with different kinds of people, but he also has these things he calls Franklies. He's just talking for a little bit. Anyway, this is Nate Hagen's. He was just talking. It's about 10 minutes, 12 minutes. Anyway, it's good. If anyone's interested in hearing more about that, I don't want to harp on it right now, but it was really good. The times we are in. Yeah, so painting, right? It's important. So, de Kooning. This was the last essay we looked at in the reading group, and it's good. David Sylvester, and from a catalog from the 90s of a retrospective of de Kooning that I had the good fortune to see. It was in Washington, D.C. at the National Gallery. And, wow, it's pretty great. And then I was stunned to find out he was alive. And it's like, what? I mean, he had by then suffered from dementia for a lot of years, so he was really not engaged, in the art world for sure. But the work was, anyway. And this is an essay from that, and it's good. So I'll read some parts. De Kooning, the Dutch masters of the 17th century worked at home. The Dutch masters of modern times worked abroad. Van Gogh first left Holland when he was 20, was elsewhere for all but 5 of his remaining 17 years. Mondrian first left at 40, was elsewhere for all but 5 of his remaining 32 years. De Kooning first left at 20, has been elsewhere for all but 1 of 70 years. There is nothing remarkable about their immigration. It has been the lot of leading modern artists born in Spain and Germany, Mexico, Russia, Korea, and everywhere else. Artists have always emigrated because artists, for economic and for psychological reasons, are impelled to congregate. Yeah, I get that. What is significant is that the artists of the first great age of Dutch painting congregated at home. The cream of their Flemish and French contemporaries worked abroad. The Dutch mainly stayed where they were and stayed isolated from foreign painters other than immigrants from Flanders. None came from further abroad. Painters were poorly paid, especially the best painters. So this small country, full of keen but often naive and penny-pinching collectors, had a dozen great native painters working there in the course of half a century, whereas each of that trio of great painters born there in the half century between 1853 and 1904 left, and left for good, each to become one of the most influential painters of his time. That's really true. I mean, right? Van Gogh, Mondrian, de Kooning, they all changed things radically. That's true. Being abroad did nothing for them financially until de Kooning started making money in his mid-50s, but it did enrich their work with an exceptionally fruitful interplay between their background and their foreground. Thus, the evolution of Mondrian's distinctive style between 1910 and 1921, an evolution the mere thought of which suffices to give aesthetic pleasure, was utterly bound up with his spending 2 years in Paris at the time he did, and 5 in Holland at the time he did before returning to Paris. And when in his old age he took that style with him to New York, a style in which Holland's endless, uninterrupted horizon can be apprehended in infinitely extendable straight lines. He was a landscape painter before he went into all those, right? You should look up his early work if you don't know it. Mondrian took his style to New York, in which Holland's endless, uninterrupted horizon can be apprehended in infinitely extendable straight lines. He broke up those lines into short staccato units in response to that city's hectic pace and current possession by a musical idiom that insisted relentlessly on its 8 beats to a bar. Boogie Woogie, you know that painting? In total contrast, the achievement de Kooning took with him to America in 1926 was no more than his training, which he remained very conscious of and talked about for as long as he talked about art. His daughter Lisa has told me. When I went to the academy was a frequent opening to a sentence, as when he said in 1960, "It's not so much that I'm an American, I'm a New Yorker. I think we have gone back to the cities, and I feel much more in common with artists in London or Paris. It is a certain burden, this Americanness. If you come from a small nation, you don't have that. When I went to the academy and I was drawing from the nude, I was making the drawing, not Holland. I feel sometimes an American artist must feel like a baseball player or something, a member of a team writing American history." 3 years later, de Kooning left the city and moved to Springs by East Hampton, Long Island, painting there for a quarter of a century till he stopped working 4 or 5 years ago. Now it is true that this is an area where a lot of artists have lived, but few with such immersion in the place. And the place, as everyone recognizes, is remarkably akin in its light and the lie of its land and water to Holland. Visiting Louse Point, one of the spots there that was most crucial for de Kooning's painting, I had the feeling that I'd been projected into a landscape by Van Goyen and realized that the emigrant was still at home. All right, I'll go on to that. That's just sort of like setting it up. It's good. It's a good essay. If you don't know David Sylvester's writing, it's worth getting. There's a book about modern art, I think, collection of essays, a lot of stuff. It's very good. Okay, hang in there, make stuff. Be well. I'll get this out to you. Bye.